Hi, welcome to OK Blue Juice. How are you guys? It's back to school season, and my timeline is full of tomfoolery.
You got the juice now, man.
Yeah, they jump on the mic smooth as well. It's the lyrical sounds of the geezer.
Hair and looking too grown. Now, I saw this video, and after I saw that video, I really got to thinking myself, like, what are we considering too grown? Because if we take it at face value, we know what everyone's saying, right? I didn't buy some of the comments that were acting like people were being unreasonable for saying what they're saying. Even if I don't agree, I could see the reason in what they were saying, but I think those people should also remember that when it comes to a child looking too grown and it attracting the wrong attention, aka like people who want to prey on kids, and they're like, it'll attract people to prey on them because this, that, and the third. And I'm like, well, I think the bottom line for that specific point is that people who prey on kids are looking for kids, right? So it doesn't really matter what they have on or what kind of hairstyle or if they're looking or quote unquote acting grown. Like, I had a chest that came in really early. I was probably like 6th, 7th grade. So suddenly I just had this like this giant chest, and I didn't ever think to myself I was more grown. I just felt like I now had boobs that were in the way of sports. So I feel like when people try to impress certain things on children, or if you have children that you think are acting grown, I think it's more about, you shouldn't be so worried about, oh, people are going to prey on you because of something you're doing. That's like the wrong approach, I think, because the problem is people who want to prey on kids want to prey on kids. And if anything, like if we're taking it at a superficial value, I personally think, they would be doing the same thing if the child looked extra childish because they look like the type of person they're preying on. None of that matters. What does matter, right, is when you say too grown, I think more about responsibility.
You got the juice now, man.
Yeah, they jump on the mic smooth as well.
I'm black.
You're going to watch me get ready, even though I cannot find this pencil. Quick disclaimer here. You're going to notice a lack of examples in photos and videos, and I have them. And as I was putting them in here, I'm blurring the kids' faces and stuff like most people do, but it just still felt kind of, just whatever to me. Like, I didn't have like blurring faces. It just felt kind of exploitative because I'm like sitting here talking about them already, and I just didn't want like these particular kids to end up being like a poster child in my video for whatever, you guys get what I'm saying. So I don't have a problem when other people do it, but me doing it just felt like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. So there aren't any pictures or video of what I'm talking about, but I'm hoping you guys can use your imaginations and just Google it, because people put their kids on the internet every day and you can go find it somewhere else, just not here. In terms of responsibility, we're talking about responsibility for the thing or the item in question. In this instance, it was hair. So to me, some people mentioned something similar, but to me, what I feel like makes a hairstyle too grown, or like a style of clothing too grown, anything that requires more maintenance than should be required of somebody in that age. It's not so much that I think a child can't have a weave or whatever. I personally, there's all kinds of reasons why they might. Maybe that child has alopecia, maybe they have some sort of, anything, and they just kind of want to be low-key about stuff until they're ready, all those things. But besides all that, even if your child has none of those, they just want it purely for style reasons, I find it hard to have a hard line on something like a quick weave or a sew-in on a child. I find it interesting that like a lot of us will put extensions like braiding hair in a child's head, and that's still also fake hair. So you can't say that the fake hair is the issue. Well, you can, but I think it's really about like the imagery, the connotation behind a weave versus braids. Braids are always going to be versatile. Braids are easy to immediately think of as childish, especially in certain styles. Like, people have bangs on a baby, but as long as it's braided bangs, it's okay. And I personally think, yeah, that's true. Like, it's okay. I don't have a hard line about that. I just feel like what makes a style too grown is, can you handle it? It's more about something mental and also, again, physical. I just think there's things that adults can handle that children's bodies can't. Something like a quick weave, where you're putting the glue, you're putting the, you know what I mean, the laces on there. You're doing a lot, you know, to the scalp and everything like that. Like, you might have part of it braided up, but so that might have made it a little more, but she still had to like glue the wig cap. You know, she had to sit under that hot ass dryer. Most of us have sat under a hot dryer before. So like, that's also not that big a deal, but I just think it's all of it together. It's a lot of people were trying to be obtuse, in my opinion. They were trying to be obtuse by saying, but if insert other race girl here had long curly hair, y'all wouldn't say anything. And I was like, I get where they're coming from, because I feel like some people who were saying no to the quick weave might be thinking that as well, where it's like long hair is too grown on a child, because essentially Black girls do not grow long hair, and so that means you've bought the hair, and that means it's something that adults do, right? There might be that long chain of subconscious events, but like, I don't fucking know if that's true. They might just literally be having a knee-jerk reaction, like, weaves are for adults. And they're just point blank, period. But someone's like, if they have long hair, then it's this, that, and the third. And I struggle to jump on that hypothesis train. I love a good hypothesis. I love a good if. But with that one, I was like, I think you're being purposely obtuse about this, because it's not that the hair is long or curly. Those aren't the two factors in what makes a quick weave inappropriate to some people. I think for those people who think it's inappropriate, it's the actual fact that it is a weave. The weave part is what you all are pretending to miss about the situation. It's not that the weave is long. It's not that the weave is curly. It's that it is a weave, period. And a lot of people are telling you that they feel like there are certain things for adults and there are certain things for children. I am a believer of that as well. I also believe in the fact that what I said earlier, where we put a lot of adult connotation onto things kids do, thinking we're helping them, but in turn, we're basically placing the onus on them for the harm that happens to children by predatory adults. It's the style of the weave for me. For me. It's the same, like, if your child chose it, that is what it is. If they chose it as a style and stuff, and they also wear their own regular hair and all these things, you know, they might have a better grip on this. But because of how people have talked about their hair journey, right? I'm not exactly going to speak from personal experience, and that's why I'm so careful about this. But because of how people talked about their natural hair journey as a Black woman, it seems like anywhere really. A lot of people, they like were forced to get a relaxer at like 4 years old. You know, they have all these ups and downs with insecurities and feeling like their hair wasn't good enough and that they didn't look right with their own hair in their head and stuff like that. I feel like that's where it starts, like as a child. You know what I'm saying? Like as a child, when you're already thinking that your hair has to be looking a certain way to be presentable, like that's how you start. And it is that deep. You know what I mean? It is that deep. I didn't like that people kept bringing up, if a white girl or a Hispanic girl had this kind of hair, and I'm like, they have their own optics that they need to worry about. I'm going to talk to you about what I think is growing on a Black girl. I'm going to say certain styles, because they are still in a developing stage. They're still in a very sensitive stage where it isn't just a style. It becomes something where if this child needs to make this a habit, like you have to reinstall this hair all the time, like, or they only feel like they're doing something special when the hair is like this and this and the third, that just leads, it's tiny, tiny bricks in a really, really big brick wall that they'll have to break down when they're coming to terms with loving themselves. Let's not get this messed up. I'm not one of those people that's like anti-weave or anti-wigs and stuff like that. I've had sew-ins, I've had extensions, I've had everything you can think of. I've bleached my hair. You see these little twists I do all the time. I'm no stranger to fake hair. Like it's fine to me. But when it becomes something like you can't leave the house without it, that kind of thing can start when you're really young. You've already started them at an age where they're starting to get a sense of self. And I just feel like it's okay to have them learn to wait for stuff. Yes, a weave is a little more mature, right, of a style, because it's something you graduate into, or at least it should be. It's something that you should be able to graduate into. Like, you get a little older, you have your own mani. There was another video I saw where somebody was commenting on a video of a lady installing a wig on her 4-year-old. You would say that's too much. I think most people, unless the child, again, had some sort of like scalp thing and they were just feeling really bad. Sometimes I feel like y'all are playing in your children's heads. I feel like y'all are playing in your children's heads. There's no reason. There's no real reason, okay? She put on frontals on the child and it wasn't like natural looking hair. Very shiny, shiny, shiny hair. All these hairstyles are really cute and the baby clearly loves them, but what baby doesn't love playing dress up? We would say it's too much, right? Because she's 4 years old. Most people would say that's too much. Like, it's cute to play around in the house maybe and stuff, but like her going around like that is too much. But then you ask yourself, why? Why is it too much for the 4-year-old but not the 11-year-old? That's my slippery slope, because that's why I think it's too grown. Because if I feel like it's a slippery slope downward, then it's inappropriate. So like in this case, it's hair, right? It's extension hair. We all put extension hair in the braids and everybody, it's okay to get a sew in and blah, blah, blah. However, then how young do you have to be? Then what is the cutoff? If it's not 11, then what is the age where you cut it off? The child can articulate quite early. Some children might be less messy than other children, so they might keep the hairstyle early. What's the age? Sometimes you just have to pick an arbitrary age just so that you don't make a slippery slope. A very extreme example, but follow me. World War II. If you know me, I will always bring up World War II. World War II, the age to be an adult was 21 before the 40s. It was 20 or 21. And basically then they were getting drafted right out of high school for World War II when the army just exploded. Kids started protesting and saying, oh, so we're old enough and mature enough to go to war, but we can't vote. We can't vote on whether the war stops or continues. That's crazy. So then, through the acts of Congress, they lowered the voting age and adult age to 18. Now a teenager is an adult instead of 20 or 21, which is fresh out of the teens, still very young. But at least there's a tiny, when you remember yourself 18 and then remember yourself at 20, you see there's still, as minute as those ages are, there was still a lot of change up here. And it does it again at 25, right? It does it again at 30. It's just your brain is resetting multiple times in your life. And one of those times especially is the age 20. I personally, right, to give you background so that you know where my bias stands, I personally think that adulthood should start at 21. So I don't think anyone should be able to do anything that we now give to the legal adult before 21. I don't think you should rent a car before 21. I feel like 25 is too much. 21 is good to rent a car. You shouldn't be able to get a hotel at until 21. You can't drink until 21, and you can't legally smoke until 21. I've thought that even before I turned 21, let's be honest. It's not something that I thought of in retrospect. I thought about that before 21. Now, did that stop me from... The point is, kids are going to do what they're going to do, but I think the legal age should be 21. And here is why. Because the legal age isn't just stopping children from doing stuff, right? The legal age is to protect them in the eyes of the law from adults that want them to do stuff that's inappropriate. It is to protect them. It is not to purposely take things away from them. It is actually to put the responsibility back on the adults committing these crimes against children. People keep saying lower the voting age, lower the voting age, lower the age of this, lower the age, lower the age, lower the age. I fundamentally disagree. Children do not need all this other stuff that puts them in legal responsibility for stuff that happens to them. Yes, when you turn like high school, you should be actively involved in civics and stuff, and you can make a difference as kids without having to vote. You can still sway different things. It's just a slippery slope because with the voting, they always tack on other stuff. Like in World War II, like I said, that brings back World War II. When they wanted to be able to vote, it was so that they could justify drafting those 18-year-olds into the army. So who's going to say they don't do that again? Where it's like, okay, you want to be 16 and vote? Now you will be 16 and old enough to get drafted into the army. Make life-changing decisions in the middle of your hormonal teen years. Make these life-changing decisions at 16. There are certain things that are okay, right, that I think are necessary, like part of it where I think it's a law of protection rather than prohibitance. And it's when like 15 or 16-year-olds can emancipate themselves from their parents. So if someone's in a very toxic household or they just gotta get out of there, I feel like that's the reason why those kinds of things exist. But that in that agency of giving that child the responsibility to emancipate themselves, it gives them protection. The law is letting them protect themselves from this adult. Now, you can also make the argument that then they'll protect themselves with voting and voting rights and stuff. That is not a guarantee because voting affects the masses and it takes the masses. You can vote for something as a group of 16-year-olds thinking about the things 16-year-old needs, and a 45-year-old can come and pervert that same vote, win the vote, but now you have the responsibilities that you didn't ask for. You understand? When you emancipate yourself at 16 because the legal laws let you are actively able to take your own agency, take your safety into your own agency. So many groups of adults still fighting to keep certain rights. That's why we vote. That's for sure. That's why we vote. And I know that maybe the youth, they all want to be able to make votes of the same nature, especially because they might overrun a lot of different things. However, the slippery slope continues because then if you drop it to 16, right, then suddenly the 14-year-old is going to get up and be like, what's so different between the 16-year-old and me? That junior in high school, I'm a freshman, I have thoughts, I have feelings, I want to be able to vote. But seriously, like, that's where I feel like you just get an arbitrary age, bang. You just settle on one and be done with it. Another point where making laws, it sometimes leads to people to find vulnerable legal loopholes. That's why I said laws need to protect. They don't necessarily just prohibit. They need to protect. Age of consent. Some of these legal age of consents are like 14 years old, stuff like that. So when you talk about the law, when you talk about a slippery slope, you're saying the illegal age of consent is 14. And a lot of people want to take that to mean that, that means at 14, if a 39-year-old man go get her, then it's the age of consent. She could say consensually yes. And that's not how the age of consent works. Age of consent is supposed to be 1 to 2 years outside of the difference, or 1 to 2 years difference. Because we've allowed this slippery slope. This is how old they can be, right? With parents' permission. If the age of consent was also 21, right? Where everyone has to be an adult, that puts in place the protections. Like I said, kids are going to do what they're going to do, but it puts in place legal ramifications for someone who wants to break that law. Right now, they have all these loopholes for age of consent to be 14. And that's why you have people worried about a girl looking too grown, because somebody's going to pretend she looks too grown and then remember the age of consent and then decide they can do whatever they want as long as the parents find out and say it's okay. All these things fold into each other. And that's a reason why I think that certain hairstyles are for adults because we need a line of demarcation for the social aspect of it all, so that children know it's okay that some things just aren't for you. You don't have to do every style you see. You're just not old enough. You're just not old enough. You also cannot drive a car. Will the world stop spinning?
You got the juice now, man.
And if anybody talks about it, they say it's not that serious, but it is that damn serious when you got that child sitting under a dryer for however long so that you can dry the glue on the damn wig cap. It's serious enough when you can't seem to do your baby girl's hair without some damn extensions or pulling up every last hair follicle she has on her scalp. I mean, every last follicle. Y'all pinch the smallest of hair into some braids so that you can put it in a ponytail. Why? At this point, the hair is not even protected anymore. It's just hidden. Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't even think all these hairstyles are bad. In fact, I think some of them are pretty cute. But I do feel like there is a time and a place for everything. And I do not feel that time is when your child is 10 years old or going to 5th grade and below. And the same mothers y'all blame for saying you couldn't wear this and you couldn't do that because it was too grown. Well, they were right. Maybe not in the way of calling kids fast because adults will sexualize them if they appeared in a certain way, but because there is such a thing as not everything is for everybody at every stage of life. And that includes clothes, hairstyles, body jewelry, or like body piercings. Now, each house governs themselves, and I can respect that. But don't act like some of y'all aren't just vicariously living through your child, regardless of the effect that it has on them. You want your kids to appear a certain way because it reflects on you, and I get that. But why does that reflection have to include a middle part bust down at the age of 10? Why is your 5th grader sporting a deep body wave ponytail with laid edges? Why can't you teach your children it's okay to wait, that you will have years to experiment and experience, God willing? Why not first learn to love themselves? Learn and love the person that you are without any additives. Why not help them internalize that they are good enough as is? Their hair is good enough as is, for pictures, for first day of school, for school dance, for first impressions, for life. It screams sexism or featureism to me because I noticed that the same pressure isn't put on little boys of any type hair and little girls who don't have type 4 hair. And don't even try to play in my face and say otherwise, because all little boys of all hair types, they get their hair washed, moisturized, styled in all kinds of different styles all the time. All the time, with no extensions, no additives, no nothing. You don't give a little boy a U-part wig. You never do it. You never do it. Even if he was like bald at the top, you would just shave his head. You wouldn't give him a little baby man unit. Their natural hair gets styled with the care that people cannot bother to give to their little girls with type 4 hair. And then there's people that say that the fake hair is for volume. And honestly, why does the little girl's hair need more volume? To live up to adult standards? And yes, maybe it's other kids. Kids tease, kids bully, and other kids will do these things. But isn't this the time to teach your child how to stand up for themselves? How to really push back when somebody is trying to make them feel bad about who they are or what they look like? Isn't this a time to teach your child how to stand up instead of cower in compliance? Isn't it possible the kids doing the teasing are learning the wrong values at their house? That doesn't only apply when you get to go recklessly spend money or something. There are other values that people teach their children, and those children internalize it and bring it to school. Y'all only want to care about when it's something like the family keeps going to Disneyland, and you're like, well, listen, if they want to throw their money around like that, that's them. They can do that at that house. But under my roof, you live by my rules. But suddenly, you're worried about what people will say because your child has their natural hair at school. Y'all, it is that deep. It is. It is. I'm sorry. It is. And like I said, I'm not anti-wig. I'm not anti-fake hair at all. Like, if you've been on this channel all of 2 seconds, you will see fake hair on me. Like, but I do find it slightly erring on the side of inappropriate for certain ages. And I also find it hypocritical because those hairstyles for volume and length and protection, they never include the child's natural hairstyle, like hair texture. It never includes a type 4 bundle or a kinky bundle. Now, I'm not going to say never, because if it's about volume and protection, why not use a texture closer to the child's natural texture? That way they don't have to disassociate their hair texture from special occasions or having a nice, like having, special hair or having like a nice time, an event around good times. They don't have to disassociate their natural hair around special occasions or even daily life. Like, why do we only question our parents for saying that a hairstyle was too grown and not question why they had us sitting in these chairs on Easter Sunday burning our earlobes with a hot comb because they pretended that you could buy your ticket to heaven with straight edges? Why? Answer me. Now, I have seen people add fake hair to their child's hair and they comb it out. Like, it's usually like the kinky twist hair that they comb out to make tiny little afro puffs. I think that is super cute because it just creates a special and pretty look. Like, it can be done. Some people might not even like that though. Like, they don't want extensions at all. But I think it's a better alternative if you're gonna give fake hair to your child for length or volume. Because let's be honest, what has more volume than kinky hair? Nothing. That's the answer, class. Nothing. Like, we need to ask ourselves the uncomfortable question of why. Why do we care so much if our children's hair is long? Why? It's for boys and girls. Although for boys it's opposite, it seems, because at a certain age, if the boy had long hair, like his whole life up until a certain age, people start to question the parents, like, why is his hair still so long? He needs to cut it. He would be so handsome if he cut his hair, And I also, especially if the boy doesn't want to cut his hair, I think that's weird that we force our boys to cut their hair at a certain age, like some random age that we decide you need to get rid of that hair. Like, I don't know. It's all weird. It's this impression of our own adult norms on children that we need to question because they're kind of silly. And honestly, like I said before, they are a slippery slope.
You have a nice day. Please buckle up. And don't contact me to come meet you and whatever else food your ashy feet.
You got the juice now, man.
Yeah. They jump on the mic smooth as well. It's the lyrical sounds of the geezer.